Going.
Hey Joe, how are you?
Good afternoon.
Hey,
I'm doing good.
Good.
Hey, I can hear you now. Morning. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you guys doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good. Got a little bit of snow Friday night, and I've been pretty cozy all weekend. It's like feels like 10 degrees outside right now or something.
Oh,
So
really?
I try not to be outside much.
Same. I was doing stuff yesterday morning, and then now I'm like, yep, that's it. I'm just gonna stay home. How is it in Florida?
Windy. And I mean, cold for Florida. I was about to say it's cold here too, but then Joe said 10 degrees and I thought I should keep my mouth shut because cold for us is like 50, So.
Yeah, no, cold is cold.
It's 22 in temperature, and then it feels like 10 with the wind or something crazy.
Wow. No, thank you.
I know. I wanted to be in New York, not Canada.
Yeah. Yesterday was Gasparilla. Joe, I don't know if you've ever been to that.
Oh, I haven't, but I've heard about it. I thought it was in February, but yeah, I guess it is in January because it's right around Martin Luther King Day.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if it's typically at a different date or not, but
No, I think it is January. I just, in my head, it was warmer.
Yeah,
a warmer event.
I think typically it is a warmer event, but not this year. It was pretty cold, pretty windy, but still fun.
Thing, climate change. Sorry, were you saying something, Jolly? I didn't catch it.
Oh, I was asking if you've been before, because I had a friend who used to go like every year.
Yeah, this was my first year. I moved to Florida in last March, so almost a year ago. And last year, well, I guess I missed it by a few months, but it also was canceled last year. So this was the first time going to it.
Very cool.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Just hanging out. Cold everywhere. Is it cold in North Carolina?
It is painfully cold. Not as cold as it was yesterday. It was like windy and really cold. My feel like temperature was 4 degrees.
Whoa.
Yeah. I'm like, well, what have I done? Why have I left Florida? Or even Alabama?
Well, it sounds like Chris may jump in and maybe we have some more people trickling in, but we can go ahead and get started. I have a few things. Let me go back to my notes. So, few sort of like, it's still somewhat unstructured, but some things that I'd like to get done and direct our attention to. So, this week is the hackathon. The hackathon is February 4th through the 6th. And I can share the Google Calendar links to the different events and stuff because I get them from the organizer. So there's the participant briefing PowerPoint. It has all the dates in there. But this week, anyways, I'll end up sending you some invites to the different meetings and stuff. But basically, if you just think about Friday through Sunday, whatever time you're able to commit to, just know that we'll be working sort of like asynchronously like all weekend. So that's like a big push to get everything done. There's 25 total teams. So there's like judges, we can have one-on-one meetings with reviewers and judges to like give us feedback on our topic. We can go to other teams meetings and whiteboards and like give them feedback. Just in general, there's like, I think there's like 1 or 2 speaker events to kick it off. And then it's like, we try to like work and work and work. So if you have something going on or whatever, it'll be fine, but just know there's a ton of activity and then we have a deadline. Let me pull it up so I don't tell you the wrong thing. It's on Sunday the 6th though, is when the final project is due. And then,
So am I.
oh, hey, Chris.
Hey, Chris.
You guys,
So let's see. So Sunday the 6th, the final submission is due at 10 a.m. That's what I have on my calendar. I'll double check all this. So that's the Odyssey Momentum, the 3D space. We have text box, video, space for images, and then like a GitHub repository. It's basically a place to put any text, any code, anything like that. And then the 2-minute pitch video. So that's due Sunday morning. And then Sunday at like 11 or 12 a.m. is that's the final closing event. And they'll press play on our video. And then I think we have 2 or 3 minutes to answer any questions during that. Then they take a few days to look over everything, go into all the details. And on Wednesday the 9th at 11 a.m., they have another meeting to announce the winners. So basically, I just want to let you guys know about those dates. The final submission is due Sunday morning. So in my mind, that means, I mean, we've already done so much. I was looking around in the Odyssey space at what other teams have. There's another team that has a Figma, their technical product is like a Figma app, so it's like we're right there. We're doing great, but let's plan to like try to be done with like what we think we're done with Saturday night. So if we consider Saturday a work day, whenever we're done at the end of the day, let's just like plan to be done with the video, done with everything. And then Sunday morning, if we have anything to touch up, we can until 10 a.m., something like that. So I wanted to let you guys know about that. Those are the dates, the deadlines. And I've been in a hackathon before, so it's like loosely structured. It's like as much involvement as you want to be, you can have. There's the Sovereign Nature Discord. I'm sure there'll be tons of activity in there. And then the 3D metaverse. So I had on my list today that I wanted to finalize the logo, the name and the logo. And then I wanted to get all of you into the 3D metaverse space. Make sure you all have the right link to get in there so you can play around with it and stuff. And then I had one piece of, I guess it'd be like homework or whatever. I was thinking, totally open to your thoughts. If we're all comfortable sharing our names and faces to be a part of the team, we can have like a little piece on our whiteboard where we all add like a headshot or like a link to our LinkedIn or whatever you want to do. But I think it helps add a lot of personality to our team and gives them an idea of who we are. And especially, I think amazing is we're all brand new. None of us are technical. And we're dealing with these incredibly complex topics. And we all have these different perspectives and stuff. So I think it like kind of shares who we are and like why we came up with what we did. And so yeah, I was gonna say the homework for today is to make sure you can log into the metaverse space, and then like, I guess just email me or drop it in the Figma, like a little section for your face and some text there. And then everything else is just like the little to-do list we have to do for each of the different submission pieces. So yeah, any questions on how the hackathon will work or dates or anything like that?
no, I'm excited. This is gonna be fun. I'm excited to try out the 3D space, honestly. And are we doing some? I read, or Katie and I talked because I wasn't able to make last weekend's meeting, and she shared with me that there was some opportunity to create some memes and things like that. Is that something that we're doing? Because I have some. I was camping until just a few minutes ago, so we just got back. But 20 degrees, by the way. It's 20 degrees. It's freezing. But yeah, because I downloaded a template that I want to create some memes with. So just let me know if that's something we're still doing or what.
Yeah, amazing. So the 3D metaverse space, it looks to me like you can add unlimited images. They have a specific place that, like, when you're flying by in 3D, you're not, clicking on us. You just fly by. There's a space for an image there. I think that's the poster. And then I think you can have tons and tons of memes.
Okay.
So when they open our space, it's like a photo gallery. Yeah, so I'll make sure we have everything we need on the technical side, but what I can tell, we can add as many images as we want.
Okay.
And then there's one viewable to, like, people passing by. So I'm gonna drop in the chat. This is the link to the Figma board. And I made some changes just to structure things, make it a little cleaner, move things around and add in work that has happened in other places. But yeah, there's space here for some of the memes. But the one that I just sent you a link to, you should see like a gray box that says name selection. And I was thinking, let's just go ahead and pull the trigger, discover the name and the logo. And I think it'll help, sort of clarify. I think that's like one piece we should let's just figure that out in the beginning of this meeting and keep moving forward from there. But yeah, Chris, any memes or images you have,
Here.
you share them in the text group, or just drop them in the Figma. We can go.
I'll just drop them in
through
Figma.
them.
I really like
Yeah.
the Earth has an app tagline. Is really cool. It's just a really easy to understand concept for people. It's not like Web3 language. Most people can understand that.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see, it looks like most everyone is in here, I'm thinking. I got some new tools for a Figma board, and it just I organized it. I gave different colors for the different workshops and moved things around so it's more clear what's happening. But if you go to name selection and you zoom in, this gray box that says there's an alignment scale. So you can actually click. Does everyone see that? Is everyone in the whiteboard?
Mhm.
You can actually
Yeah.
click inside this red to green, and it puts your little letter name. It's basically a way to vote. So I just wanted to back up and just make sure we're all on the same page. I know it came up in the meeting like either last week or the week before then, but should we just use the name public land protocol? And so the idea for this, I just wanted to get like a temperature gauge and alignment on that we're all on the same page with this. I know we have all as a team been working on this hackathon, but I've been working a little with Jolly. I told each of you a little bit about it as well. But the public land protocol in my mind it could be something really big. And I'm thinking that we are making a very specific app specific to this problem prompt, this village. And I think, given some winning money, we can move forward. Let's keep developing the app that we have at this hackathon. And the question is, should we call everything that the public land protocol does, should that all be called the public land protocol app? Or should the public land protocol be like a platform and a DAO that has a bunch of different tools that each have their own names and are each individual apps? So that's the big question why. Like I think Katie the other week was saying, oh, isn't this just the public land protocol app? So I just wanted to see where you guys were at with that. And you can click on these alignment scales. So the first one says public land protocol should be the app name for everything we build. And any pros or cons to that, I think there's just a little bit more like brand recognition, like on the marketing level, I think is the only real difference. And then I do think having multiple apps with different names, I think it's more flexible. We can have a very specific logo and app that sounds really great for this hackathon and not have to worry about whether it fits in perfectly with the overall picture of the public land protocol. So anyways, I just wanted to introduce that. I hope I'm not making it more complex by stepping back up a layer, but I think it's important that we as a group are on the same page. And moving forward, one thing that I'd like to talk about is how we move beyond this hackathon to what else the public land protocol is doing. So anyways, I just wanted to drop that in. If you could all just click
So option one
red
is
or green.
just could you go? So option one is basically it's everything's PLP. The other option would be PLP is like an umbrella, and then everything underneath it could be their own thing.
Yeah, exactly. So to tell you a little bit more, like the public land protocol, one for one is trying to tokenize regenerative land stewardship. So I think it's well related to what we're proposing for this hackathon, but it's a little bit slightly different spin. And it's about making making a new revenue stream for the people who are caring for our planet the best. So if that's a regenerative or a community land trust, a regenerative agriculture farm, a community garden, a co-op, natural, some sort of business that's owned by a co-op, all of those different people can use the tokenized stewardship as a new income source. And so that's what I've been working on with the white paper for the public land protocol. It actually hasn't come up really in this hackathon at all. I don't think that it necessarily needs to. And I think that what we're building is really useful piece of the big picture goal of having DAO owned lands, DAO owned community land that DAOs and DAO members can steward and manage. So we have this app on the end user visitor side of what needs to get done for the landscape and how to reward those contributors. And that totally fits in with the bigger picture of public land protocol, giving new income streams to the people who are managing land regeneratively. So PLP in general is not tied to any specific technology or chain or anything. It's just this bigger goal of how do we accelerate regenerating the planet as best as we can. Who's already regenerating the planet? How do we help them? And the biggest idea so far that I've been working towards is tokenizing stewardship. So anyways, I think what we do for this hackathon will continue on. It'll have a life of its own, and it'll be a piece of this bigger vision for how can we accelerate, real change in the world.
Gotcha.
Can you pick up your piece and move it after you've?
Just click again anywhere on the red to green line. Any other comments about this topic? Are we already spending too much time on this?
No, it's a good question.
Discuss the votes. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just a little quiet, Jolly. If I can hear you.
Okay, it's my computer, I think. So I was just gonna say if you wanted to discuss, how we voted. The way I was looking at it was kind of like how Facebook is Meta now, but even though it's Meta, it has all the subsidiaries like Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp. So that's why I like the idea of having different names, because depending on the specific mission of that app, it's different than what PLP is as an umbrella.
I agree.
So I think it's good to look at it that way, so it doesn't cause confusion if you're talking about different aspects of it, but labeling it all PLP. But knowing that it all falls under PLP.
Okay, I get that. That's sort of where my head was a little bit.
Chris, actually, I see you're on the agree side that we should use public land protocol for everything.
No, that's what I mean. I wanted to remove that. That was a mistake. How do you do that?
You just click anywhere on the red to green line.
If you want to remove it,
Drag
okay,
it.
gotcha. Or move it, drag it. I guess.
No.
Just click
Just click.
where you want to
Okay.
move.
On the left.
Gotcha. All new stuff, my friend.
Mhm.
There you go. I moved
Yeah,
it.
lots of new tools and stuff. Cool. Well, I mean, I definitely see a consensus, kind of exactly what Jolly said, that there's an umbrella and then there's an app. And for this hackathon, for other hackathons, different projects, we are free to make it, exactly what it needs to be to fill its purpose. Okay, I just wanted to check on that. Well, if you scroll down a little bit, the next gray box below, on the left, there's a chat box. Actually, this is a new widget. And this is going to help us work asynchronously during the hackathon. So we'll continue to use this whiteboard, continue to develop ideas in Google Drive and all the other places. And what I've done is I keep posting stuff back to this whiteboard. So this, you can just click new message and just type into a box will show up and you type and then you press send. So then this chat box, whatever it's next to, anyone that wants to talk about this topic can leave a comment, and we don't have to be on the call together to have those types of discussions. So I just, feel free to play around with it right now. And then if you want to delete it, you click the clock and then you hit delete. So I know you couldn't see my screen when I did that, but anyways, okay, so now moving on to the right, I have, I think, the first green box. This, you can vote for as many as you like. You see, is everyone looking at a box that says question at the top? This is a list of all the different app names that any of us have said throughout this time. And on the right is a green box. They all say 0 now. You can vote, just click in a green box for everyone that feels right to you at all, like any of them that you would be fine with. And we'll get an idea of what the consensus is in this one. And then the one on the right, this is like the final vote. You can only vote for one. And so I'm hoping in this process, we can just start to kind of discuss, what's not acceptable, anything that has a 0, if no one is willing to use it. So yeah, please go through and add them right now. Let's see, I think share, Tinder, Symbio, Orgo, Humans on Earth, Empathy, Ecolog, EcoQuest, Ecoville, Eco To Do, EcoShift, EcoClick, Earth Hands, and Cultivate. I think Orgo, clearly has all the votes. I don't even know if we need to do another vote. Sounds like that's the one that we picked. And then off to the right, I have added in the different logos that Katie made. So, I think it's Orgo. I think we all just decided we call it Orgo. And if you zoom out a little bit and come over to the right, there's a logo section. And the top left is all the ones for Orgo. So now, okay, new tools. I know it's complicated, but I think it'll be good. Everyone press E on your keyboard and it'll pop up with an emoji or a stamp. So if you press E, you click on the face, pick one of these emojis, and then you can click and drag. We can share with each other what we're looking at, what emoji we want to share. These will not stick on the page. If you press E again, and you hit the stamp, this lower half of the circle, you can find a stamp for a thumbs up, a thumbs down, basic circle, +1. Is everyone able to see those?
Wait, say the stamp part again.
So press the letter E on the keyboard when you're on Figma, and there should be a smiley face and a stamp icon, blue and white. So you hit this stamp on the bottom of the circle. And then anything in the wheel, you can pick apart. And now these are permanent and they'll stay in the Figma whiteboard if you close it and you come back.
I am back. Sorry, I lost my connection. What was the last thing you said? So I just want to, you want to click it onto the bar itself?
So right now we're looking at 6 different logos Katie's made, and I'm showing you the stamp feature. So you can grab a stamp and just indicate your preference for any of these logos, anything that you like or don't like. And
Is the blue background part of the logo?
those are from Katie. I just grabbed the images Katie shared with me. So yeah, that brings me to another point. I want to encourage all of us to, in the effort of making the best possible submission, let's just all put aside our feelings, understand and respect that we're as a group, we're all trying to do something good here together. So please do share your interest, your opinion, even if you disagree. I just want to help. I know there's this tendency to only ever agree and only ever be nice, but that actually doesn't help the design and help the product get where it needs to go. So I just want to say, first and foremost, we're focused on a great submission. So yeah, we can be direct and we can work through, any of the emotions that come along with producing work and having something that represents yourself and stuff. So yeah, let's have a frank discussion about the logo. Like, what do you like and not like about any of these? And the blue, it's like, if you don't like the blue, say you don't like the blue. I think I'll start, and I'll sorry that Katie's not here, but I'll say I think the colors could be tweaked. I do think the colors could be tweaked a little bit.
What are you thinking?
I just think, for example, if you look at Orgo is very dark, Earth Has an App is in white, and then the leaves are in white, and then the background is very dark. And I just think you could be more consistent, either like make Orgo white, make all the text white, put it on a dark background.
What about the top right one, Joe? You see how the logo is more front and center, and then you have like this dark text. I personally do like the blue background, but that's just my thing. It could be just completely transparent, or you can have this sort of grayish color. But I personally, I like this part here being more front and center. And I like the leaves and everything like that. Looks bigger.
Yeah, I think out of the non-blue ones, the top right is definitely my favorite.
Agree with that.
I don't really see the difference between the two on the left, the two blue ones.
Yeah,
just the text.
The blue reminds me of like the ocean, and I mean, I guess that could be a part of what we do in the future, but I don't think the ocean has been our focus, and so I don't want people to get the idea of like this is a save the ocean kind of a project. So the more neutral white background kind of makes the earth and the plant and the Orgo name stand out a lot better.
I like the vagueness, believe it or not, of Earth Has an App. It says something without saying it. I don't know if that makes sense. Whereas like the other one is like Earth Has an App, help save our Earth. It's just a lot going on.
Yeah.
And I feel like chases people, I like the vagueness because it could chase people to go, what does that mean? Earth Has an App. And then it directs them in.
I like the
Yeah, I
top
love,
right
love the top.
one, but
Sorry,
I
go
want
ahead.
the blue and the green to be like not bumpy. Like the ones on the left, like the blue and the green has an even wave.
Oh,
Like
yeah, I see that.
little detail.
I see that actually. I didn't notice that at first.
There maybe.
And
Who's
obviously, I don't
dropping
think
in?
Katie's a graphic artist, is she? But
I was
Well,
gonna
good
say,
thing
I
we
think those
have-
could be like
that's
tweaked.
okay.
Just dropping in the public land protocol logo. And I'm thinking like, let's take these blue and green.
Yes, I was just thinking that
Like,
green.
I like
see
that.
how dark I don't know, for me, I really notice how dark the colors are. And then one test for a logo is if you filter it on a white or black, like what does the shape of it look like? So this one, even though it is 3 colors, like if you look at the top right one, up here, even though it has 3 colors, blue, green, and white, if you filter it white or black, this is actually all going to be, those are all filled colors. That's going to be one black circle. So I think you could make like this flower shape transparent, change the colors to like nicer colors, maybe make the lines of the plant thicker. And then you have a recognizable shape, even if it's in black and white, that you can mix and match a light background, a dark background, all these different things. So I've worked with some logos before. I can do stuff like that. But that's like, out of all of these, I think I agree, make that swoopy line a better color and, or sorry, a better swoop, and then change the colors a little bit and like line weights and add some transparency, and then boom, I think you have it done. I think Earth has an app is a great tagline, and I think Orgo, I like what it stands for. I wish it was more clear when you said Orgo, but I think that's fine. I think people will learn it when they read about it and stuff like that. Any other comments about logos or what you'd like to see, how you would shift it?
No, I really like
like it doesn't
incorporating
really-
the colors, that consistent see with, and you see that across brands. They have a specific sepia tone or whatever that applies to that branding, and that's it. It doesn't change unless they change the logo, of course. Joe, you could even say that black on PLP could be part of that, whatever that shade of black is, those 3 color, and white, of course, being one, an alternative, another. So those 4 colors could be the basis for everything going forward.
Yeah, actually these 3 colors, just to know the symbology of it, the public land protocol is green is the ecosphere, blue is the anthrosphere or the human community, and then black is the technosphere or the built environment. So that comes from the biocompatible design standards. It's 3 different ways of looking at measuring a project's regeneration.
Gotcha.
So if there's a 3rd color somewhere, I guess, what would the black be, the text you're thinking? Or what did you say?
No, I think you had said if you ever have like an alternate black
Oh, yeah.
background,
Yeah.
that could be,
Yeah.
it would be that same shade of black.
Although I don't dislike the idea of having the Orgo in that color.
Right.
I think we are golden. I'm gonna put I don't know if it'll work, a really big heart. Can I make it big? A really big heart on this one over to the, I don't know, covered up yours, but
Put an arrow.
because I think that's sort of the clear winner from all of our eyes. Anyways, I'll keep working. If anyone else wants to work on it, I know that I can do some of the illustration on the logo, and I had some ideas on how to do that. I can do that. So let's see, what's next? What have you guys all been working on? Is there anything to report from the different to-do list items that you guys are part of?
I don't know if we're still thinking about partnerships. On my spreadsheet, I was in I was in Odyssey yesterday, like looking at the different worlds and different teams. And I did come across a couple of names that maybe if you were still interested in reaching out, that, they were either doing something similar. So maybe I could share my screen.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try to take notes in the right.
Okay. So the first, share. Okay. So I took some of the stuff that they had written about, just so we have an overview. First one was called Identity, similar to what we're thinking about doing in the long term with the carbon offsets and, helping incentivize planting trees. So it seems like that's their entire goal for Identity, and that's pretty much their focus. So if we do want to work with them, and if that's something, on top of their minds, and they see, oh, we've been focused on just one specific thing, but if it works with what we're doing and what we plan to do, um, that can be something we can look into. So yeah, they're all about carbon credit offsets and helping regenerate and protecting the green spaces. And the downfall is they currently have a team of 8. So I don't know if they're looking to add multiple other people. But out of, I think there are like 6 or 7 teams that had written about, what they plan to do. Not everybody had information available. And then the second one was Green Deeds team. So this one was kind of about the recycling aspect, and I thought it fit in well with ours because we are looking to empower the community to want to, take a role in the land. So this kind of works in that way, except they're using individuals to turn in their plastics and recyclables and earn crypto for it. And they can also earn exclusive NFTs. And there's something about the Green Steward Alliance. I hadn't heard of it, so I was trying to do a little bit of Googling. And it seems like companies get awarded this title depending on what they're doing and what kind of criteria they're meeting to be green. And I that was something that maybe we can look into for ourselves. And yeah, I like this idea as well. Clearly, I'm biased towards waste problems, but yeah, if that's just something that we could also add in as a reward program for recycling and handling waste and composting. So yeah, those are just some ideas, and they currently have 3 people on their team. But if we're good with where we are at, and we don't see need to have additional individuals, that works too. So yeah, just throwing ideas out there.
This is so cool. Good work, Ellie. So I can say an update is that I think I got this on email, but SNI and Odyssey, that's the 3D platform, is called Odyssey. Odyssey is adding a bonus cash prize to the most collaborative teams. And they added a new section in our space for collaborations and notes. So I think even if we each have individual project submissions at the hackathon, individual projects, we can still win a cash prize for collaborating with these other teams. But I'm thinking, I mean, the 2 that you shared, I think Green Deeds is super close to us. They're talking about performing an action on the ground and getting some sort of NFT credit back. I don't, there's still all these questions in my mind of how it works, but that's amazing. I think they are looking at like picking up litter side of things, and we're potentially looking at a more generalized way of doing things. So I don't know what do you think the next step would be, just to talk to them in Discord and stuff? Should we invite them to a meeting or something?
Yeah, if that is something we would want to do, if everyone agrees, then we can definitely reach out and see if they want to think about collaborating and maybe reaching out to whoever's in charge from that team. And yeah, maybe having them join, or if we're available and they're having a meeting soon, then they'll invite us to join to their meetings first. But yeah, that's something we could either start doing later today, and just reaching out and making connections.
Just writing notes.
I'm checking out the website.
Oh, the greenbeats.co.
Yeah.
Jolly, is this your screen?
Oh, I'm still sharing, aren't I? I can stop.
You have a million tabs open. That would stress me out so much.
You must have a powerful computer.
Good to share. We can, if there's other stuff you want to show someone, let's say we can look at it. That is a, I don't want to share my screen because I always have so many.
Yeah, it's hard to cut down.
I mean, I thought I have a lot, and I do have a lot in multiple browsers right now, but it's not anywhere close to this one screen.
Am I still sharing? Hopefully not.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are.
I am?
So they trade in, let's say, recycled bottles or whatever, and they get the very bottom. CUSD, these can be exchanged for C gold using Uniswap. Interesting. That's the thing that's a little challenging with NFTs or any of this stuff. It's all DEXs and stuff like that. You have to use some swap tool or whatever. So it's all very interesting. I don't know.
That's great information though, Jolly. Do you want to share how did you go about finding that? How did you get involved with learning about the other teams?
Oh, so I went on Momentum yesterday and was going around the world and just browsing the different teams that were available. I was really horrible at navigating with the keyboard, so I kind of went under search and I just like looking at the text. It was easier for me because I'm still trying to figure out how to move around. Like at one point, I went into a very different trajectory and ended up in the abyss somewhere. So like, how do I navigate back to the different teams? So yeah, they do have a search option at the bottom where it'll take you directly to like, you click on Momentum, then SNI Hackathon, and then it shows different teams that were involved. So yeah, they just had a problem solutions, a little bit of an overview, and I just read up on each one and and decided on which ones made the most sense.
It seems like they also have a technical background, whereas maybe some of us don't. You know what I mean?
Right. Mm-hmm.
That could make for a good symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know what they're doing with this, like CeeLo, for example, but if that's, I'm not exactly sure how to.
Hi.
Go ahead. Oh. Were you saying something, Erin?
That wasn't me.
Oh. Okay.
Sorry, I was on their page, like their YouTube video. I'd muted my screen, but somehow it still came through. I guess. Sorry, I'll watch it later.
That's fine. That's fine. But yeah, I don't know how some of these terms are a little new to me, so I don't know if they would be compatible with what we're doing, if that makes sense, or if we would have to, switch from what we were thinking, like from Ethereum to what they're working on. So it doesn't have to be something we do. Maybe they could just be a good person to collaborate with to bounce ideas for our own personal project.
I know the CeeLo, that's a different chain. That's a whole blockchain. So that must be where they're minting the NFTs and transacting with the users. I have we have remained somewhat of a non-technical team, so we are chain agnostic. We haven't committed to Ethereum. We haven't committed to anything because we're not developers and we haven't had those conversations yet. So in my mind, we might now, like maybe now we need to use CeeLo because we're trying to collaborate more with them and, you know, copy whatever they were working on for our purpose. So yeah, that's great.
Good job.
Anything else to report from anyone on your to-do list kind of area? Any problems or anyone stuck on anything?
I made very minor edits to the graphics if we want to look at those.
Nice. I posted your last ones. They're on
Yeah.
workshop 3. You have to zoom out a lot.
And
But if
it looks very similar. There's just text now, and then there's one more that I've worked on. So can I grab the screen?
yeah, should be able to.
Let's see. All right, so we'll just start on this one. So I just used one of those links that you sent, Joe, and found some very technical, scientific sounding text to add in here. And I guess, so this is the graphic that I made real quick, kind of showing, again, I looked at that little map that you posted, and it had like kind of where what I assume was where the contamination was, those colorful blobs, for lack of better term, but and then just put a little plus sign where those are, and just said like so this would be like they've logged into the app, they've clicked the community, and here's kind of a map of the community, and here's 4 tasks on the app, and you can, you know, if you click on this one, it'll tell you what the task is. If you click on this one, it'll tell you what the task is. And so it's probably hard to read the white on white. How do I there? So yeah, there's different tasks there that I've kind of made up, and then kind of, so this person's looking, he or she is on the app, and these people are doing tasks, I guess, soil sampling to establish how much contamination currently exists in the soil, and this guy's measuring trace elements, blah blah blah. And the other one is kind of the same thing. I think it's the exact same task as the rendering before, and this lady has the app again in her hand. So I think last time Aaron mentioned education. Maybe one of these renderings should, instead of focusing on like this lady is also measuring trace metal elements in the soil, maybe instead there's a picture of someone looking at this this sign, and it's got a little QR code or whatever, and they're getting information on sunflowers or information on vines growing up a tree or something like that. So I guess similar to what we did with the logo and the title. Is this something, or are any of these something that we could use? What needs to be added to them? Do we like one? I mean, you said we have technically unlimited images, or we need one or two? Joe, should we vote on these two? Maybe throw this one out, tweak this one. I just said a lot.
I think, no, that's great. So I think, so we have the presentation. Presentation is up to 5 slides. I mean, these are looking like the type of thing I would want to talk about during the presentation. So I don't know what number of them go where, but I think there's the presentation, and then the SNI Odyssey space has let's see, I'm logging in right now. I'm gonna go in there. I know we have a poster and we have a meme space, and I think we have room for like other, you know, other images in there. But let me just click it and try to edit it and to see if it tells us total number we can edit. So yeah, so there's the metaverse space. But I think the whiteboard, this Figma file that we're working in, I think this is part of the judging process. I think it's part of what is going to go into that. So I don't know what that tells you. And then there was one final thing I was going to say: the metaverse, the whiteboard, presentation. It'll come back to me, but I think there's multiple places where the images can live. And,
Okay. So don't worry about, unless one just doesn't fit or make any sense. Let's try to use all three, and let's just critique these graphics, these renderings.
Like my comment on the last one, I was thinking,
The last one, this one?
yeah, so the way like in the phone is positioned, it almost looks like they're about to take a picture, except they're looking at the app. So I was thinking, if you are going to add a QR code, maybe you can have the person actually like taking a picture of the QR code, and then we're showing an image of what they might be seeing from taking a picture. So that way it kind of makes sense of because even though it looks like they're about to take a picture, they're actually looking at the land, so it's the land itself, but maybe having something there that is taking a picture of the QR code and engaging with whatever the information is, and it can
if we possibly moved this over here, then maybe she could be taking a picture of the QR code.
Yeah, I like that.
And then maybe this is even larger. Maybe it takes up kind of this space. And then we could see, like maybe she's already taken a picture of the QR code, and now we're seeing information on sunflowers.
Yeah.
And we could put the information here, or I don't know, have like a zoom in up here of what she's looking at. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it'd be educational. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this is appropriate for the short presentation, but is there any way that, or should we consider putting something about the fact that they're earning, you know, something for this in that, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, measuring heavy duty while also earning, you know, blah, 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 or
Yeah.
if we're going that far with this, or it's more general than that.
Maybe there's a diagram that could show that. I just don't know how, but I'll think about it. I just don't know how we could graphically show earnings.
Well, I think that the blurb spaces don't necessarily need to be saying as specific of what's in there now, more so like what the app is doing. So take a picture of the QR code and then find out what to do type thing, rather than the specifics of what you would be doing. I guess just kind of like reiterating what our image is trying to say in words.
far as earnings is for like the participation in the tasks, right? Not for the learning aspect. So maybe wherever there's somebody doing a task, it could be like, one crypto or one Bitcoin or whatever much currency they're earning for that task. So it kind of just has like little signs over their heads about how much they're getting paid or points they're earning.
Oh, sure.
Look like little Sims.
Yeah, that's what I was. That's where I'm getting. That's the image I'm seeing.
I think those are all great points. Yeah, the points, that might be something we want to continue to discuss today. Oh my gosh, is it really already 1:30? This is going by so fast.
Yes.
So the points, how do the points work? And I think maybe clarity on that reward system is what Alex needs. Like if we know how it works, then we can show it, if it's still this vague thing, it's hard to show. But yeah, I think that's a great idea, like the Sims or something like that. I think maybe consider a poster that combines these so we don't feel like we have to throw anything away. If you had some sort of larger poster that had room for more text, it didn't have to overlap the image space, kind of a bigger, not like a scientific poster like that they have at conferences, but like in that sort of realm where you have like a bigger view that allows you to put larger text somewhere and maybe explain some of the things better and have space for a diagram. Like, I don't know where you'd put a diagram on top of this, the diagram about points, but on a poster, we can have the renderings and we can have the diagram, text, all that different stuff. So maybe if you want to think about that or playing around with that, I know the poster is what will be viewable. I'm not aware of the size limits or anything like that. I was going to say on the one that had the red pluses, it's like a bird's eye view. I'm wondering if we use something instead of this background image, if we use like maybe just a Google Maps image or something that's like
specific to
maybe it's less pretty, but it's more like a little bit more realistic or a little more like we might not have this view on all the different communities, not that you have to, but I'm just thinking about what'll help add some realism, and it might help the little app if it was like something recognizable like a Google map or something like that. I don't know, just brainstorming. I think that's a really beautiful image though. And I like the like locations of tasks. One thing that I don't have any, great thing to offer, but I've thought a little bit more about is Snapchat. I started looking into their documentation for how we could really make something work. And we can just create a very simple lens, like a border that just says like, whatever it is, Orgo, evidence or something like that. And you just take a picture of whatever it is. You take a picture of you and your 3 friends planting a tree. However you want to take that picture that adds to this evidence that you're one of the people that did this thing. We can, on the back end, take every picture that's posted publicly that's using that lens. We can collect it and share it on another website. So we can use the Snapchat APIs to pull that. So I'm just wondering if I know we don't have all this stuff figured out, and I know there's lots of gaps on the technical side, but like a Snapchat lens, that's something we could have a pretty good idea of how to make a border look and show like one of these images from Declavel with a border on it, that also might fill in that spot on the app and give a real clear picture of what might actually look like in the app.
Yeah. Cool. This was helpful.
keep developing because the other thing we have is the wireframe that I started making.
Mhm.
And I know they're not like the app in use, but I can continue to develop those. Maybe I'll make one that looks like a Snapchat lens. But basically, I'm thinking we'll have a URL to the lens. Anyone who can click that, it opens up Snapchat and it opens up that lens. And then you can just take a picture of whatever you want. And later on, it gets posted to the public page and you say, I was the one that did that. Like my wallet is the one to send the money to. You have a second person, an independent person saying, hey, it looks like in this picture they did do it. It looks right. Send them the money, I'm thinking we can do that as a very bare bones sort of situation.
If you, Joe, if you
Instead of
want to
the-
go to the Figma board, share your screen. I updated, I added some memes on there, just funny little ones I thought would be cute.
It's loaded. All right, well, yeah, do you want to share your screen?
Sure. How do I do that?
In the bottom on Zoom, there
Yep.
should be a green arrow.
Oh, share screen. Yeah. Got it. Share my desktop. Let me know if you can see it.
Yeah, we see your screen.
Which one? The one with this one here, the Figma board?
Yeah.
So I was just playing around with it. I know we discussed, I think I saw some funny Lorax memes that you put on there, Joe. So I found this background and I was able to find just like a meme making software. I thought that would be cute little things to put around, that have, I mean, obviously you can do a meme of everything, but I just thought the Lorax, I identified with it for some reason. So one of them was when I was around, the Earth didn't need a nap. If I had a phone, I would download the Orgo app. And then of course, what are NFTs? I'm feeling the FOMO. So just trying to make it lighthearted for something very serious. Obviously, this is copyright, so we can't use this in real world, but yeah.
I love that. I like the first one. When I was around the Earth, it didn't need a nap.
All right, I'm returning the screen.
Yeah, I think that's great. I'm jotting notes down in my head. I'm like, okay, what are the missing pieces before we present? What do we need to have done? There's still a few pieces for me. Any comments about the memes? Any other updates on need to do list items? Anyone stuck on anything?
What are the next steps? I mean, we want to make sure for next week, if it's next week, we got to get, sort of just have a bullet list of 3 or 4 things that we need done and ready to go. And who's going to do the pitch and all, all that type of stuff. Obviously, you're going to do that, by the way. Just letting you know.
Who's the you? There's 5 people on this call.
Oh, you know the you.
Yeah. Joe, you've done hackathons.
I am comfortable presenting. I have a mic that sounds better on a video that we can use.
Joe, you've seen my presentation skills. I don't think.
You're great.
Mine too.
Don't worry, we're gonna polish this turd, and jam it down their throats. They're gonna like what I'm talking about, even if we don't have anything good. No, I felt comfortable presenting. I'm fine with that. If I think 2 minutes, it's so short. I think it's fine to just have one person. If anyone else wants to, we can do more stuff. I'm thinking the easiest thing for the video is to record on Zoom like this, and I'll present so that it will have the screen share of the PowerPoint or whatever I'm doing, and I'll just talk, and that'll be 2 minutes, and I can clip it and post it to YouTube right there. I'm also thinking, so let's see, let's work in Figma and everyone come back to the Figma page and let's like make this to-do list together. So we kind of have, I'm going to copy the one that we had the other day. We kind of have this deliverables to-do list thing. The other time, I'm copying it in. It's right next to the memes. To the right of the memes, it says Hackathon deliverables to-do list. I can send a link in soon if we need it. So what I was thinking is we have a very short 2-minute presentation, and we also have a long format, the full amount of time that we need to discuss everything that we've created. And that might be a 12 or 15-minute YouTube video. So we'll have 2 different videos. They'll both be public on our YouTube. The one that we share during the presentation meeting will be the 2-minute version. And then we can link to the full 10-minute version, you know, wherever else. So that way we're not like scrambling with the time, because the time is crazy. That's so insanely short for how complex of a topic this is. So the video will happen, in my mind, it's gonna happen Saturday, like at the end of everything. And it's gonna be a Zoom, like no editing type of situation, because I don't know how to video edit. If anyone else does, let me know. But that was my idea. So that's the video. The PowerPoint, we need to work on the PowerPoint. We have 5 slides maximum, and we could do something similar where we have the 2-minute version, we have the 3 slides 2-minute version, and then we have the 25 slide full length version, because we've done so much. We should share everything that we've done. We really should. Whatever feels the most comfortable and easy to share, that is how we should do it. So let's give them the requirements that they have, and then also I'm thinking we have the short version and the long version. So we do that for the PowerPoint as well. This GitHub repository, because we're non-technical, probably going to be minimal, if anything at all. That's basically a place where coders develop open source software in public together. I can make you all administrators, and they have text. You can do images, text, like basically like Word docs, help docs, and then like posting like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, like actual source code files, and like directories of like dependencies and all this other different stuff. So that I'm not worried about that. If that's not what we did, like let's not artificially create one to look like we did stuff. You know what I'm saying? And then the text, Jolly has already worked on that. If you click this underlined text button, it should take you to her document that she's been working on. And that shows up in the metaverse space. And then the logo, we already decided on the name of the logo. I'll add myself to do more time on that, make that look better. So yeah, that's the big picture of what needs to get done. What I was just writing down, the question marks that I still have are the point system, the reward system. How exactly is this going to work? And what do we need to have something to share that looks like it makes sense? It doesn't have to be figured out. We can say, hey, we need the money because we need more time to develop this. I think that's a great reason to give us the prize. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but like, what does it need to look like so that when someone sees it, they're like, oh, I know what they're building, and they just need this smart contract or this thing to figure it out. So to me, the questions are, it's sort of vague. I don't know if you guys have like answers on that stuff. We've identified different stuff before. So we have sponsors, we have specific tasks that sponsors are paying for the completion of that task. Some way or another, we have the contributors claiming that task. And then the money that the sponsors pay for goes to that person. I think the very first meeting, Paul from Kilt seemed to know a lot about how to do that. And I think we could use a Kilt protocol integration. Let's plan on having a meeting with him on either this week, Friday or Saturday, and just making sure it makes sense that we have a diagram of it in the presentation, and we, whatever that is, we've got it covered. But the points, how does it show up in the app? Who's able to use it? Is there anything that we can like take from a reward system, like an existing like local business discount? Can we just take that and plug into their format so we don't have to go and find all the businesses that you can use rewards points at? Yeah, so I have lots of questions about the points. I know it's on the technical side. I think that's why we kind of avoided it, which I think is fine. Any comments on that? And then I have one other thing I wanted to discuss, another to-do like question over that.
So my question is, are the rewards only going to be used for points, or are the rewards going to be more closely related to what we saw in the form of some token that they can accrue to hopefully create some, generate wealth or whatever, or to sell it in exchange or what not, we have to decide that. Is it going to be points based or NFT / tokens? Are you muted?
I'm writing down what you're saying. Do you mind repeating that though? Chris, can
Yeah,
you just
so
repeat it in?
sure. So are the rewards going to be more points based where they can redeem them for physical objects, or is it going to be points based and rewards are some sort of governance token or a token that they can then swap on an exchange, more like the people we just saw? I think broader appeal, specifically for the purposes of this hackathon, broader appeal would be more of a points base where they can redeem for something. If you wanted to think about the bigger picture, the tokenomics and also that's great, but I mean, I know a little bit about the crypto market, and it's still sort of fuzzy, swaps and all this stuff, you know what I mean? So how could we expect the average Joe who's wanting to help the earth and do great things to understand that? And is it motivating enough for them to take on this specific task in this specific area or this app? Is it going to get them off the couch for that? I don't know if that makes sense.
Could we have it do both? Because I know that there's some people that are like, screw crypto, like crypto means nothing to me and it has no future. And then there's other people that say, crypto is the future and screw, paper money. So I feel like if we did both, it could kind of feed, both ends of that spectrum.
Yeah, it's kind of like how banks do things. Like if you spend money, you get points, and then those points can be used towards gift cards. But if you want to just transfer to your own account, you can also do that. And sometimes if you transfer that money into their own bank, they'll give you like a 10% bonus for cash for just depositing it. But in this case, if they're wanting to spend it, maybe the value may be a little bit less because you just want to straight up use it. But if you use the points for various activities or services within the community, it has more value. So you're kind of encouraged to spend it back. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think one conversation, maybe no one else was there for me and Katie, when we first met with the people at SNI and said, hey, we want to participate, here's our idea. We were talking about the broad appeal is not a crypto market. Broad appeal, like using Snapchat, I think is like a cool thing that makes so much sense to people that you don't have to know about crypto. You don't have to know how it works. Same things with like a local business discount card. I think we can do a both sort of situation. And like going back to the idea of like a wallet integration, a lot of these crypto apps, they have like Web 2 is just like normal internet stuff, like everything that we already use and stuff. And Web3 is like when you use a wallet and you self-custody your own funds, and you can interact with smart contracts. So a lot of these apps will have like a normal website talking about the team and the mission and like all the different stuff and like about us and all these different links. And then there's like a open the dApp button that like opens up the wallet integration. And then that's where you interact with the smart contracts. So I'm thinking for the everyday average user, I've researched it. There's so many tools we can use that are not self-custodied. So you can sign up with an email and you can own these crypto tokens and NFTs or whatever our app is doing. So people can approach our website and treat it like a normal website. They don't have to know how all this stuff works to be able to earn points and spend points. But if you do know how it works, you can press open dApp. You can self-custody your own points and interact with the smart contracts yourself. So I think we can do like a both and situation. And unfortunately, we just have to put a pin in like these bigger technical questions. But I think we can talk about like what's going to actually work and how does it need to function. And then a technical developer can use that spec to build what we need to build, especially if we get money from this, that we can hire someone to do something like that. But I think we can do both. So I think the way that Paul talked about it from Kilt Protocol is you have a twin you have the digital identity. You have you as a user. This is my wallet. This is my identity. You have a credential that you cannot transfer. So I planted that tree that gets attached to your identity and it cannot be undone. And people know, okay, that's Jolly's wallet. She definitely planted that tree. That can never leave Jolly's wallet. And then also the same time that she earns that credential, she gets an NFT that is transferable that says someone produced a tree and she got one of them. And then the sponsors can purchase that NFT because it is transferable. So Jolly would get points or dollars, whatever the sponsors are paying for the transferable aspect of it. And she still retains a resume of all the tasks that she's done. So these sponsors are collecting, oh, you planted a tree. I'm going to collect every NFT that's planting a tree. I'm going to put in what the value of planting that tree is to me as an organization. I think more people should plant trees. So they're each worth $200 and we'll pay for materials, So that would be, the sponsors are identifying the different types of payments that are getting rewarded. So in all of that, I think the points could be sort of just like video game points, and they might not have to be a blockchain element. They can just be a way of keeping track of within the app different point values for different things. The sponsors can define what is the monetary reward for the different tasks, and the sponsors will post the money, and then the contributor who does it can get the money. So there's actually like 4 different things going on. There's the credential that doesn't transfer, the NFT that does transfer, the rewards, which could be a whole plethora of different NFTs and tokens that sponsors will pay you in, and then the point system within the app for the leaderboard, which is our own thing, which may or may not be a token on a blockchain.
That's sort of cool.
So what do you guys think of the 4-prong method?
I like
Can
it.
we explain that in 2 minutes?
Exactly.
Well, you could just weave that in and have that be, we have a 4-point system to generate rewards, this, and this. You just can't elaborate too much. Not for the purposes of this.
Mm-hmm.
Remember this drip my water. Remember, I just was thinking, like when you watch a Shark Tank episode, they're presenting and they have their pitch, whatever, it's a lot longer than 2 minutes, but whatever time that is. And then the sharks then sort of interview them and ask them, and then that's when they expand upon their ideas. So that's what I think we should try to think about, like present the ideas at a general level. Should we get interest or whatever, then you could create the videos to create how they do it, or have that be someone down the line.
I think Shark Tank is great. I personally love watching it. I think that's so perfect to think about how this presentation will go too, because we're a new product trying to find investors. Essentially, it's in the form of a grant, but they're basically choosing us.
Mhm.
One thing I noticed is that there's a separation between the rewards and the point system, because point system is more like rankings and seeing how far ahead you are compared to somebody else. So I guess maybe if it's rewards, then you don't want to confuse it with points, because it's not like you redeem your points for the rewards, because then I would assume the points go down. But if points is just based on, rankings, then you always want to keep the points going up. So maybe we don't look at points as part of the reward system, just to avoid confusion.
Maybe just call it rank.
Call what a rank?
Rather than calling it a point system, calling that a ranking system. So you don't think of that as, a redeemable aspect.
For that, yeah.
What about XP, like experience points? Like it's like a rank, like you're building up your rank. We're trying to gamify this whole thing. So you've been a contributor for so long. Oh wow, you're like a level 10 garden warrior or whatever.
Yeah.
And now now you're at the top of the leaderboard. Okay, cool. Actually, that's a lot of clarity. I really like that. I don't want to confuse things, but I was gonna add in, the app, whatever money we have going on, whatever fees we're able to collect to continue the operation of this, we ourselves could be a sponsor. And one thing we could sponsor could be the rank or the XP points or whatever. So if maybe it is redeemable, and maybe that's the governance token, is we have our own governance token to decentralize the creation of this app. The people who get the higher ranks get airdropped our governance token. But I think that might be a conversation for another day. I don't know if that's needed for what we discuss. But I think ultimately, yeah, I mean, we should be able to have a sponsorship for the things that are most important for nature, not just what some outside organization will sponsor. And we can be the ones to decide that, to use our voice to do that.
Yeah, like
And I think we talked about the
PLP
community
Foundation.
democracy.
Yeah,
We do need that.
well, and that brings up a good point about it would be a nonprofit, right? It's going to be set up as a nonprofit. So you could have the PLP Foundation, if you will, be responsible for issuing and coming up with the rewards, and then also divvying them out to the winners. Could be bigger than this little app, the foundation, if you will.
Absolutely.
Like
Are there any other questions about points? I feel like it's still a big topic. I don't know if you think this is enough to present? It sounds like we know what we're doing. I could draw something that shows this in a diagram. It's very complicated. It'll probably still be a complicated diagram, but I think we can present this concept. And I think we can work with Paul from Kilt to really get the technical aspects of it figured out.
I think we're good. I mean, you got to stop somewhere and start doing, or whatever. You can't, because we could have a million different ideas, but at the end of the day, we've got to refine it to its core, and then also be able to present that. If we choose to move past that, let's win or not win, you choose to continue that, hey, we came up with a great thing. We didn't think it was going to be this, but it is. Then we start going deeper, I think. But for the purposes of just this, I think we should keep it simple.
Yeah, and for inspiration, that's why I included the Starbucks app, just because it gives us an idea of how their systems work from the 25/50. And even though we won't have an exact formula for how the points work, we can just have a general set system and use that for our presentation. and it doesn't necessarily have to be the right way, but at least they'll have concepts of kind of how it works.
So does everything that is left to be done have someone doing it? Does that make
That's a
sense?
great question. I love that question. I do not know. Let's figure it out. Like what? Here, I'll share my screen. So this is our list from the last time. Hackathon delivered. I took all that out. I said, Orgo. I'm going to add an arrow. So you guys can all add arrows to stuff if you want. It's right here in the bottom. I'm going to add an arrow to the logo for myself. And then you can change the size right here. This little Figma tricks. Right here is big, small, dash line. Let's see. So what do I have? I have the logo. I can't even see what else that is. Oh, and the PowerPoint and the wire. Oh, the wireframe of the app. Yeah, that's a big one. I might need help with that. Just really quick, I haven't changed it since our meeting Wednesday. And it's over here. If you want to drop comments, I added a text box or a chat box. I guess you asynchronously have time to look through it and make a comment. I'm thinking the thing that's missing is Snapchat integration, whatever that looks like. And more of the renderings that, like the rendering that Alex has, like the bird's eye view, like that should come up somewhere here. Okay, so let's keep going. The text. So what I have for homework, let me just start there. I think the homework for everyone, get a headshot and short bio or any social link you want to share, get that to me. We'll put that either in the PowerPoint or somewhere on our team page or something. If people are interested in who we are, I think that's useful for the judges. Sign up for the Odyssey. That's the 3D metaverse space. I can send you guys a link after this meeting to make sure that you're in there. I added Jolly and Katie as admin to our space, so you should be able to edit it now, Jolly. And once you guys log in, either let me know or whatever. I have to manually say you're part of the team. So you all need to sign up, try flying around, learning that. And then I had, this isn't for everybody, but I had to meet with other teams. Just the stuff from Jolly following up on collaborating with other teams. And I was gonna add for myself to assign calendar events to everyone. So I want to make Google Calendar events for the whole hackathon. There's like 2 or 3 different like speaker workshops, and then the final presentation. So there's like a few events I want to add you guys all to, so we all know what we're looking at together. And then, like I said earlier in the meeting, Friday and Saturday are like work days. So if you can think about how much time you're going to be able to have, if you can make time on Friday and Saturday, and then we'll just go to the opening ceremony and we'll probably have a team meeting, you know, continue doing what we're doing now, like what's left, what we need to figure out, who's going to do it, and then probably work independently all through Friday, come together Saturday morning, see where we're at, do the same thing, work Saturday, come back together at the end of Saturday. So that's 3 team meetings, Friday after the ceremony, Saturday morning, Saturday evening. So I want to get all those calendar events to everyone. And I'm thinking those are shorter, like 30-minute sort of like let's get together, and then we all have to go to work, like get shit done kind of mood. So yeah, so that's on my list. That's what I was thinking we need to get done. And then in here, I mean, what do you guys think? What are we missing? Where are things at? What needs someone to do something?
For the wireframe app, were you going to include how the rewards work, or was there going to be a screenshot of that too?
Great. So now this is losing its structure, but it's just like a big to-do list now. I'm going to write down the diagram of the points and rewards. I kind of have a little bit of an idea on that. Does anyone else want to do it? I can.
Yeah, look, I want to help, Joe. I feel like I haven't had a chance to do as much as Alex and Jolly. So if you want to connect offline, we could sort of discuss that.
Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna add you in here. And Aaron too, we're gonna make sure you're on this list too. So Chris, you're gonna help me with this side.
Right.
And Aaron, I know you said you were in that last time. So the renderings, you know what you're doing next with the renderings, Alex? I think the
Yeah.
PowerPoint is gonna help the most with everyone to organize collectively our thoughts on the pitch. Can anyone work through the PowerPoint?
I can do the PowerPoint.
So this is the link to it. It's right here. And right now it's just, I haven't edited it, so I think it's just blank. So while doing the PowerPoint, think about we have a short 2 minutes, and it's just the concept, and then we go straight into the app technical demo. And then there's a longer format that I think we should also create that just fully explains everything that we've done. Do you want to talk more about the PowerPoint now, or what else is missing for you guys? I think the text, I think is probably decent to put into the metaverse space, maybe just continuing to refine it. I was thinking maybe put it in a paragraph format so it's not all bullets. I think the final version would be nice as a paragraph.
Yeah, that works. I don't know if Katie was still working on that, or if she had any information available on the wire, or I mean on Figma, but I can circle back with her, and yeah, I'll keep refining that too. And for the meeting with other teams, do you want me to reach out on Discord?
Yeah, that'd be great. I think if you want to, I have time this week. I think I'm sort of busy. But anyways, I think if you found a meeting time with them and you could invite me, I'd probably be available.
Meet again Wednesday and try and email Joe what you have so far, like Tuesday night or Wednesday at some point during the day, so that we could like start to put this together, see what it all looks like, even if it's sketches or incomplete slides, diagrams. There's something on each slide, an image, a diagram. There's a poster almost ready to go.
I know we're getting just slightly over the meeting time that I originally planned. Is everyone good for like another 15 minutes?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I I think we should meet again. I think that's a great idea. We could even do it as close as Thursday, like the opening ceremony is Friday morning. So I think we should have that discussion. Like we should have some time to work on it and then come together. And then we probably won't meet again until after the opening ceremony on Friday. So Wednesday, that seemed to work for everyone last time. It was like Wednesday. What do we do? Like 5:30?
Yeah, it was 5:30, I think.
Actually,
Okay.
I can't look at this. Just check it out. Yeah, okay.
Is it possible to do like 5:45, if that's okay?
Yeah, or just 6, maybe 6.
Yeah, that would be better. That works for everyone.
Yeah, just so you're not rushing to do whatever you were doing. And we have working people.
Yeah. I'm good. I have a dinner at 7 p.m. So I would have to log off by then, but I'm good from 6 to.
Okay, I'll include that as a calendar invite. The last thing, and it should have talked about it before the to-do list, but how the voting works. I don't know if we're already doing enough to present a technical product that works, it makes sense as an idea. But really the original question of this hackathon, I think, does come down to that voting aspect, how the community managers and stuff work. So I guess I'll just say, if you think about it anymore, let's talk about it on Wednesday. I'm going to put that on my list to write something down about it because I have some ideas about it, but I think we're running out of time for today.
What time is that Friday, the opening ceremony deal?
I'm sharing my screen and like the Zoom things in the way I can see.
So I have a 11 a.m. training I have to be at.
So it's like, this is the participant briefing slides that they shared with us. Let's see.
I think you just passed it.
February 4th.
Oh, okay.
No, it's right here. 12 p.m. Central Europe time. Oh, 6 a.m. Sunday. I remember looking at this and I was like, oh, wow. So where was that?
Sheesh. I'm up at that
It's
time, but I didn't expect.
So look, it says optional metaverse orientation. So that's 6 a.m. So then
Okay.
8 a.m. hackathon kickoff.
Okay,
So
that's
8
good.
a.m. Friday morning. These are all the things I wanted to send calendar invites for. The next day, support time as needed, 8 p.m. live entertainment. The third and final day, the deadline is, I believe that was 10 a.m. Last time I looked, now I'm questioning it. And then pitch session. So this one is a mandatory thing for teams. I mean, I think mandatory for at least one person on the team. And then the announcement's on Wednesday the next time. But I think I saw something in Discord that there's like maybe another event or two in here, like structured time to meet with judges and stuff like that. So I'll double check.
So the hackathon day is actually the 4th. Okay. I thought it said Friday, but it's not. Oh, it's 4th. Never mind. Sorry.
Yeah, Friday the 4th.
Sorry. My calendar is all jacked up. Yeah.
So yeah, I said the thing about voting. Any thoughts on that are quick? Any questions that I should address with that? I'm gonna spend a minute before our meeting Wednesday thinking about it. Okay, well, the last thing I wanted to do, there's any other questions or anything, just interrupt me right now. The last thing I wanted to say, well, first of all, is thank you all so much. Like, it means a lot to me. This has been a really cool experience, and it's like it's happening. I told Jolly, I wrote down in my notes a long time ago that I was like manifesting. I'm working with my friends on a cool project that has something to do with permaculture, sustainability, and I'm just like thriving and loving my life. And thank you for being a part of that. And I just wanted to spend a minute to talk about next steps after the hackathon. So I'm hoping we win some money here. If we win, the top 3 teams go on into finals, and one person from each team is invited to Amsterdam, and they'll pay for travel and lodging for one person. But I'm thinking whoever else is available, assuming we win, let's see how many people we can get to have a trip to Europe. I think it's planned for May, and there's another final presentation of the top 3 finalists to the community, and you have time on site to develop your app or whatever it is. So that's an amazing opportunity. Anyone who's interested in this space of developing these apps and more hackathons and stuff, like, it would just be really cool to win money and then have a trip together, so something like that. But I just wanted to start thinking about like maybe probably winning something because we're doing a really good job. And then I also want to talk about, so the public land protocol I am creating is going to be a DAO. So however familiar you are with it, it's basically a co-op. There's a co-ownership of this entity. We're building something together. And I would just love to invite you all to think about what involvement could have going beyond the hackathon. I think to me, this hackathon is building out our capacity, building our team up. Hopefully we win some money, we get some recognition, maybe some new people join. But I'm really interested in how we work together, how we can continue to work together. I've been working more than a part-time job on the public land protocol myself over the past month or more to make sure that it is something, and there's lots of exciting things that are happening. So we're in a partnership with the Refi DAO, Regenerative Finance DAO, and there's Gitcoin round 13 coming up. I think it's in March or April. Well, they have a separate track for climate change projects. So I'm just seeing movement and energy. We have over 200 followers on Twitter. We have over 60 people in the Discord, and you four and some others like Katie that you all know have been involved in this hackathon. How can we continue to work together? And so I would like to propose that we create the CRPLP token. I want to create the contributor reward PLP token. This is pre-launch. At some point in the future, you'll be able to redeem these contributor tokens for the future PLP token. And so basically I want to say that I don't have the money to pay you right now, but if it's something you think is cool and you believe in and you want to keep working on, we can create that token right now. And I started writing down everything that I've been doing, every role that I think is important and necessary. And basically we can have a conversation about which types of roles are valuable, how many hours per role is what kind of value and stuff like that. And there's the Haifa DO has all these tools and stuff. We can just clone all their work, create our own token. And what I'm offering you is, instead of saying, hey, this is my project, I own 100%. Oh, and you're so wonderful, you get 2% equity for working with me. What I'm saying is I have 0. We all have 0 right now. Let's work together. If you have time, it's even 2 or 3 hours a week, why don't we get on a board together and identify what these roles are, what needs to get done, and make it a space that we can continue to attract talent into. And the way that the Haifa DOE worked is that those first contributors had like a boost, basically. And that boost goes down over time because you're taking on an increased risk. You don't know what's going to happen to it. Maybe in 1 or 2 years, people know what it is and there's a real value to the PLP token. So anyways, there's like ways that we can structure it so that being an earlier contributor, we can all share, 10, 20, 30% of the pie. And as it grows, we add more people to the team. We get diluted with each new contributor that comes in. So we all start with 0 and you get what you put in basically. So I just wanted to put your mind on that and say we have a meeting on Thursday to discuss the DAO, everything that's been going on outside of this hackathon, all these networks that I've been building, relationships that I've been building, Twitter, all these different things, and like the vision that I see moving forward. But it's open and it's flexible and it's decentralized. So I've taken on a lot of the weight so far, but I'm saying let's start at 0 and come to an agreement on what are these different roles? What is the value of the different roles? Okay, this role gets this amount of money. Okay, who wants to fill that role? Okay, Aaron wants to do this role 10 hours a week. That's this many CRPLP tokens. And in the future, the contributor reward token can be redeemed for our full launch PLP token. So there's some real money to be involved with it. And then last thing I'm going to say, and I want to hear your thoughts on all this, we can tie the CRPLP token to investors that are interested in space. So far, we are all people working, contributing our time. We will get this token reward. There might be investors who want to buy this token reward. And so basically we can structure it so that one CRPLP token is always worth $1. You can like do some math on like what some of these hypotheticals would look like, and we can open it to some sort of investor situation. I'm not sure like different stuff with the SEC and some of that things like, so I want to like have that as like a future potential that these reward tokens you're getting, you will be able to sell them or redeem them for the PLP token. And there's some sort of monetary thing that we can start doing for contributors. And whatever that future launch or future grant money, whatever it looks like, now we know, oh, this person has 20%. They've contributed this many hours for this many months. They're this type of a role that gets this much money. So when the grant money gets distributed, they get that 22%. So I just wanted to give you a picture of like where I'm headed, what looks like after this hackathon, and invite you all to join me and let's take over the world.
Thank you, Joe, for all your work.
What time is your meeting on Thursday?
At 11 a.m.
Where you going?
It's 10 a.m. on Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I not want to make it as inclusive as possible, but I did make it during the week because I know people are working. Like, I don't know, I think it's important that the DAO needs to operate during the week. So I think this is useful to know who is able to show up during a weekday meeting when the DAO will be operating. But it will be recorded as also. That was my thought process for Thursday morning.
Cool.
So yeah, what do you guys think? I know the Haifa DAO, they did this, and actually because people are willing to bet on the future of PLP, we're able to raise the money to get started. And then us as contributors, like if you take more PLP token versus more US dollars for your role in the DAO, like you're also getting boosted. And there's like, so all the different people that are betting on the future of it, we can actually have a smaller capital requirement up front. Basically, we can get by with only like $100,000. You know, we can pay people $800,000 in value for only having $100,000 in the bank. Stuff like that that we're able to do when we launch our own token.
So that's a HIFA DAO, HIFA.
HYPHA, Haifa, DHO. They're a decentralized human organization. And I have a YouTube link in the Discord to their presentation on how their organization works. And we can just copy as much of that model as we want for our purposes. I just wanted to start thinking like, how can we sustainably work together to make a difference? And paying you for your time is part of that. For me, I think you guys are so valuable. We need you. We should have living wages for working on it. But in the meantime, let's start tracking who's doing what, giving DAO tasks and roles to different people where they
Awesome.
can get a token.
And Joe, when would you want to get together on our task? Maybe I'll leave it up to you. We'll touch base on, I guess, Discord. How would you want to get that together?
Yeah, let's see. I have time this afternoon or tomorrow is probably better for me.
Yeah,
Tomorrow
it's
after
probably
lunch.
better because I've been gone all weekend. I haven't been able to spend time with family, or my wife at least was with the kids. Yeah. What time works for you?
Be like 3.
Sounds good. Okay. Do you want to send me a Zoom link, or do you just want to do?
Using
Yeah, that way we can collaborate that way. Thank you. Okay, it's on my calendar.
their comments on plans for the future. Anything that feels like your voice isn't in it, not the way you would do things. Everybody excited?
Yeah.
Oh, I like that way. Yeah. I think
I know you sent out a,
good, Jolly.
I was just gonna mention, I know you sent out a link for PLP with kind of like a survey of what roles people can see. So I'll get that back to you soon. I'm still working on it.
Yes, please. I'm gonna send reminders in Discord, but please before Thursday, probably before Wednesday night, fill out. It's a simple form. You can do it in the less time, the less that you've done. If all you've done is come to a meeting, that's all you have to write. But it'll be really helpful to see which types of tasks are getting done. And then it also has a link to, or a question about what types of things should we be doing. So it's really quick. Well, let's build something together. I want to make money doing what I love, and I want to do it with my friends. So that's what it's all about. And I think, none of us are probably familiar with DAOs. So building one, we're going to learn all this stuff together. I think there's so many things you could take to another organization, adding to your resume, what you've done with it. But I'd love to pay people to do this work. This is this first step.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd love to figure out how to pay myself, or us pay ourselves.
Right.
The Haifa Dough has like some insane salaries. Their starting salary is $70,000 a year.
I see they're hiring people too.
Yeah, they're decentralized, so anyone can apply at any moment. Every role only lasts 3 months. So you sign up for a role, you say how many hours you have, you get the salary for that role with that many hours.
In 3 months, that sounds
In
great.
3 months, you apply again.
That's crazy. Talk about new economies.
And I was talking about people who don't believe in crypto. Meanwhile, look at like everything that we're talking about right now.
Well, there's always laggards in every society. So early adopters get to you take on the risk, but you also take on your you get the rewards for that risk or whatever.
Well, I'm excited.
Is that everything? Alex, you look like you're waiting to speak or fall asleep. I can't tell.
No, it sounds good. I guess for someone like me, I know my company, I think you have to like let them know if you're like taking a second job or whatever. And so at this stage, it's more of like a competition. It's more of a hobby. Once it becomes 10 hours, 20 hours a week, you know, that's a conversation that I'd have to have with who I'm working for right now. Which you know, everyone, I think there's several people in the office that have side gigs, and that's kind of what this would be for me. But yeah, I'm glad you brought it up. It's something to think about and maybe start talking to the boss man about.
Yeah. I added in one option for 1 to 5 hours. So I think there is the lower side of things. Yeah, we can talk about non-compete clauses too. Make sure you're not doing anything bad with your work.
Right.
Sorry, I cut you off, Arian.
I was just asking Alex where he worked now.
It's called Clearview Land Design in Tampa, Florida. It's like land development, I guess. And
Very cool.
Landscape architecture team, mostly civil engineers.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's fun. Pays the bills.
Right? Do you like Tampa?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Except on windy, cold days. Well, cold days.
Yeah.
It's not doesn't feel like 4 degrees outside, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonder why I left Florida.
Hey, I think that's everything. So see you guys on Wednesday.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right, thanks
Bye,
guys.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.